A massive explosion occurred in a dangerous area declared an evacuation zone. Authorities warned everyone to evacuate immediately for safety. Amid the chaos, a high-speed energy strike shot from the sky, striking the area and causing massive destruction. A blue energy force descended from the sky like a meteor and struck the earth with a devastating impact. The energy then merged with a young man, flooding his body, causing him to scream in excruciating pain and pressure. A transformation ensued. Blue and red energy exploded from his body, signaling the awakening of a terrifying new power. A proctor announces the results of the selection exam in front of a large group of participants. He explains the grading system, passing grades, and rankings, and explains that this exam determines the chance to awaken a special mental ability/power. Meanwhile, the main character listens intently, aware that this exam will change his fate, determining whether he can advance to the next stage and awaken the power he has long awaited. He finds himself in a school training environment and is the target of ridicule and intimidation from a group of other students. They belittle his abilities and try to pressure him mentally. Despite his calm and collected demeanor, the protagonist intelligently analyzes the situation, recognizing his opponent's weaknesses and his own potential. A brief physical confrontation ensues between the students and him, who are confronted and provoked, but he doesn't resist excessively. However, some of the other students notice his unusual strength, particularly his grip and response, which feel incredibly strong. After the incident, the protagonist chooses to restrain himself and maintain a low profile, realizing that acting rashly could cost him his life in the next selection stage. After that brief confrontation, rumors of an ordinary student with strange powers began to spread quietly. Some perceptive students realized that he was clearly not normal, but because he didn't act aggressively, their suspicions didn't escalate into open threats. The next stage of the selection process was no longer just a test of academic ability, but a dangerous simulation that tested physical and mental endurance. Signs of energy instability began to emerge, hinting that a global catastrophe that would eventually destroy the world was being accelerated. This was a crucial part of a much larger plan. Nuclear radiation spread across the globe, destroying humanity's physical limits and triggering massive mutations. Monsters and strange creatures emerged, civilizations collapsed, and old laws no longer applied. On August 21, 2045, all of humanity was forced into a new system. Everyone awakened and reached life intensity level 2.0, marking an era of forced evolution. Amidst the chaos, survivors began to display varying powers. Some transformed into monsters, others into warriors. The protagonist is among those who manage to adapt, gaining extraordinary combat prowess, but realizes that this is only the beginning. The world has become a brutal arena of selection, where only those strong, intelligent, and controlled enough can survive. In a post-apocalyptic world, humans coexist with monsters and constant danger. The government and special organizations have established a testing system to identify individuals worthy of becoming guardians and frontline fighters. The exams feature extreme questions and simulations that indirectly assess the mental and moral readiness of participants. These results confirm that he is not only physically strong, but also intellectually and strategically superior. With this combination of intelligence and hidden strength, he increasingly stands out as a dangerous candidate, not because of his demeanor, but because of the potential he harbors in a world that now only values the extraordinary. He returned home and resumed a simple life with his family, displaying a humble demeanor and warm family relationships, a stark contrast to the extraordinary powers he possessed. He eats with his family and chats casually like ordinary people. At home, his father, a firm yet caring figure, provides a balance, emphasizing the values of hard work, simplicity, and discipline. Despite his extraordinary strength, he refrains from standing out, respects his family's role, and accepts his father's advice calmly. That night, he sat alone, contemplating his condition and the responsibilities he faced. Awareness of his strength and the risks it entailed made him more cautious and mature in his actions. His strengthened resolve marked the beginning of a new phase that would test not only his abilities, but also his resolve and self-control. With full awareness, The world around him suddenly transforms into a landscape of extreme, deadly ice. A fierce, frigid energy rages, signaling that this is no ordinary selection, but a battlefield of life and death. Amidst the icy storm and crushing pressure, he remains calm, draws his weapon, and demonstrates his readiness to face whatever comes. It is revealed that this space is designed to test the limits of humanity, to destroy the weak and force the strong to rise. He moved cautiously, observing attack patterns and assessing the level of danger, realizing that any careless move could be fatal. But as the threat escalated and the enemy attacked mercilessly, he stopped holding back. With sharp reflexes and perfectly controlled strength, he slashed at the opponents who stood in his way. With one devastating slash, he finished off his enemy and ended the previous wave of attacks, leaving a silent ruin all around him. Despite his wounds and labored breathing, his expression remained calm and focused. He immediately opened the system panel to assess his condition, and the data displayed revealed a significant increase in his abilities due to the recent battle. The final wave arrived with the emergence of a high-level monster that was far more ferocious and destructive. The creature charged from the air, spewing flames and bringing with it a deadly pressure that instantly transformed the battlefield into a sea of destruction. Without panic, he leaped forward to meet the first attack, reading its direction and preparing a countermeasure. At high speed, the creature swung a claw slash that sliced through the terrain, forcing her to maneuver swiftly to dodge and maintain distance. Without giving her time to breathe, a follow-up tail whip struck hard, creating a shockwave that dragged her body into the air and shattered the ground around her. Despite being pushed back and knocked back, she didn't lose control. Each enemy attack provided her with valuable data on her opponent's patterns and strengths. Having read his opponent's attack pattern, he finally unleashed the power he had been suppressing. With a surge of cold energy enveloping his body, he surged forward and penetrated the monster's defenses, delivering a layered attack of precision and lethality. Slash after slash struck vital points, forcing the monster to howl in pain and lose control. With a heavy sigh, he realized that his power had surpassed his expectations, and that it had developed into something far more extreme than he had anticipated. He launched his attack without hesitation, striking the monster from a high point with full force. But in the heat of the battle, he realized his mistake. His overzealous drive and aggression had actually opened a dangerous opening. The monster rose with an even more frenzied fury, roaring and pressing back with a terrifying aura. Realizing the situation was spiraling out of control, he forced himself to calm his mind. Regaining his breath and focus, he resolved to end the fight in a more measured and decisive manner. The battle reached its climax when the monster launched a brutal final attack, seeking to devour and destroy everything. In a split second, it read the direction of the attack and moved with absolute precision, darting through the narrow gap between its opponent's jaws and claws. With a single, sharp slash filled with concentrated energy, it pierced the monster's defenses at close range. The counterattack shook the arena, breaking the enemy's momentum and sending him reeling. This scene confirmed the results of the training throughout the trial: composure, timing, and complete control of one's power. Now, with the advantage in position and the monster beginning to lose its fighting power, victory was within reach, a climactic conclusion to the life and death battle. With absolute confidence, he condensed all his energy into one ultimate attack. His body shot through the air, leaving a trail of cold light as his slash landed straight at the monster's core. The attack pierced through the thick defenses and shattered the fiery aura that had dominated the arena. The monster roared loudly before finally losing its balance, its massive body collapsing in an explosion of energy that shook the examination room. At the end of the scene, he stood tall with his sword drawn, breathing heavily but his eyes calm. The fifth wave of battle concluded, marking his victory over the extreme test and proving that his strength, strategy, and self-control had reached a level far beyond that of the other participants. He activated his ultimate technique, concentrating his energy to a peak and exploding into the sky like a thunderbolt splitting the earth. The vertical strike slammed directly into the monster's body, piercing its final defenses and rupturing its power core. The devastating impact triggered a shockwave that ripped through the arena, sending the creature flying and disintegrating from within. In a final flash of light, the monster collapsed completely, leaving behind a trail of destruction and silence. He landed steadily, his aura slowly subsiding, marking the end of the decisive battle, a testament to his transcendence and the rise of a new level of power. After the final monster fell, the system displayed a shocking evaluation result. His performance was deemed to have far exceeded the test standards, even being considered an anomaly that shouldn't have occurred at this stage. The system noted that the simulation method was on the verge of collapsing under the strain of his power. Realizing this, he calmed down and reflected on the battle. He acknowledged that while his strength had increased significantly, his control and efficiency still needed to be refined to avoid future risks. A larger threat was revealed, a horde of dark creatures with oppressive auras, signaling that what he had faced so far was only the beginning. The image of a large enemy signaled that the world was in danger. Returning to his private room, he sat quietly and reflected. He realized that his strength had indeed increased significantly, but the road ahead was still long. With a realistic attitude, he reaffirmed his determination to continue training and strengthening himself, no matter what challenges awaited, and opened the system panel once more, a symbol of his readiness to move on to a new phase. He awoke in a strange, silent space, with shimmering blue light surrounding him like a sea of energy. His consciousness was completely lifted as he realized that this was no ordinary simulation, but a deeper layer of the system. Before him, the shadow of a giant, dark entity appeared, emanating a pressure far beyond any previous enemy. He understood the mechanics behind everything that had happened. With a sharp gaze and a calm inner voice, he concluded, "So this is how it works." This scene marked a point of enlightenment, the beginning of a greater understanding of the system, his own power, and the true threat lurking beneath the surface of the world he had known. He reassured himself that whatever he had experienced, the trials, the system, and that strange power, could not be shared with anyone. These secrets would have to be kept under wraps, at least for now. With his mind more organized, he returned to the real world and his daily routine, as if nothing had happened. The atmosphere suddenly lightened when someone called him from outside the room. He got out of bed, changed his clothes, and prepared to face the new day. As he emerged from his room, his younger brother jokingly asked him to show his arms, and was immediately shocked by his physical transformation. The visibly defined muscles turned the atmosphere boisterous, filled with teasing and innocent admiration. He himself merely smiled awkwardly, a little surprised but not boastful, while his younger brother continued to make playful comments about his good looks. After saying goodbye to his father and receiving a simple, caring message, "Be careful on the road," he arrived at the school grounds to find the other participants, both tense and excited. He joined the field, warmed up, and quietly observed his surroundings. Although outwardly relaxed, his mind was alert and calculating. A group of large students mocked the other participants' abilities and tried to provoke conflict, displaying overconfidence. When one of them openly challenges him, the atmosphere becomes tense. He is focused on his goal and uninterested in petty conflicts, a sharp contrast to the immense power he conceals. But his friends try to defuse the situation. One of them jokes and emphasizes that the most important thing is not to fight for prestige. Despite this, threats are still made, indicating that the conflict is not completely over. He remains calm and shows no fear whatsoever. He asserts that he will face whatever comes without shying away, even though they don't yet understand the extent of his strength. The scene concludes with a premonition that trouble is coming, but he is ready to face it. As the physical exams began, the participants felt the immense pressure of the new, much tougher standards. Many began to tire, while he remained steady and focused, restraining himself from standing out too much. He realized that for now, surviving and passing safely was more important than showing off his strength, knowing that this selection was just the first step into an increasingly cruel world, and he had to proceed with careful calculation. The official physical exam begins with an emphasis on one key aspect: strength. He quickly adjusts his breathing rhythm and energy flow, understanding that efficiency of movement is more important than raw power. On the other hand, other competitors appear overconfident in their strength, underestimating technique and timing. He is ready to show off the results of his training, yet maintains complete control so as not to draw undue attention. This is where the difference between true talent and arrogance will soon become clear. He delivered a powerful punch, creating an explosion of power that shook the arena and drew cheers from the audience. Many were shocked by the devastating power of the attack, labeling it boss level among the participants. But beneath the amazement lurked the realization that the protagonist, who had already unleashed the punch, was waiting for the right moment to make his move. He unleashed a punch with speed and power far beyond expectations. The impact sent a shockwave that silenced the audience and stunned the other participants. Even students previously considered strong appeared to be mentally shaken. Whispers spread quickly. They recognized the figure as Chengdu, the once average student who had now demonstrated an unprecedented surge in power. Chengdu's incredible performance in the arena sparked an explosive reaction from the students. His peers cheered in disbelief, while others stood stunned, realizing the sudden gap in power. Exclamations of shock. When did he get this strong? Confirmed that his transformation could no longer be hidden. They began to discuss him seriously. His name was mentioned not as an ordinary student, but as a variable that could upset the balance. With one brief command, "Show me Chengdu's data," it was implied that surveillance had begun. Chengdu's struggle was no longer personal or local. He had entered a larger stage, where every move would be scrutinized and tested. The proctors read the report with solemn expressions, realizing that this exam's results were far from normal. Several students, including Chengdu, showed potential beyond initial expectations, enough to change the academy's grading standards. Chengdu was called forward along with the other selected participants. Amidst the students' stares, he remained calm, realizing that this was a step toward a true test of his strength. The official announcement was made. The students who passed this selection would face a real battle. Two names are mentioned, Chengdu and Feng Rui. The two are portrayed as polar opposites. Chengdu is calm and cool, while Feng Rui is ambitious and aggressive. Feng Rui underestimates Chengdu, believing his previous superiority to be merely luck and insufficient to win in a real fight. He is confident that with pure strength and fighting experience, he will prevail. The official fight finally began. Chengdu immediately moved with lightning speed and precision, attacking without hesitation and pressuring his opponent from the very first second. His attacks were powerful, swift, and deadly, clearly indicating that this was no ordinary duel. However, Feng Rui didn't panic. He drew his sword and managed to block Chengdu's attack just in time. The clash between the two created a massive energy wave, indicating that their strength was on a dangerous level. Chengdu unleashed a swift and brutal combo, striking his opponent repeatedly, sending him flying and severely injured. His movements were immaculate, a combination of speed, timing, and power, putting Feng Rui under complete pressure. Upon landing, Chengdu stood firm with his weapon in hand, displaying complete confidence. Chengdu's dominance in this round demonstrated his clear ambition to win, be recognized, and rise to the top. Feng Rui finally fought back seriously. He unleashed a powerful technique coated in a red aura, his attacks heavy, fierce, and full of the intention of taking his opponent down with a single blow. The impact was intense. An explosion of energy filled the arena. Chengdu was forced to defend and dodge quickly, enduring the immense pressure from Feng Rui's barrage of attacks. Chengdu's speed was still his advantage, but it was clear that Feng Rui was no ordinary opponent. His raw power was terrifying. The fight escalated. Chengdu excelled in speed and technique. Feng Rui dominated in power and aggression. Feng Rui launched a devastating attack, shouting that he wanted to finish Chengdu off. With a surge of immense power, he struck straight down from above, creating pressure and destruction in the arena. However, Chengdu remained calm. Amidst the brutal assault, he read his opponent's movements and realized that Feng Rui's was still predictable. Relying on his speed and timing, Chengdu dodged at the critical moment and then launched a sharp counterattack. The tables were turned. The attack that should have ended the fight instead opened a fatal opening for Feng Rui. Feng Rui and Chengdu's final attacks finally clashed head-on. The clash of forces created a massive explosion of energy, with streams of red and blue light pressing against each other in the center of the arena. Chen Du redirected and drew his opponent's drawing force, exploiting the imbalance in Feng Rui's movements, which began to falter and become unstable. Feng Rui's momentum collapsed as his center of gravity shifted. With more sophisticated control and technique, Chen Du took control of the fight and forced Feng Rui into a desperate position, marking a decisive turning point in the fight, where the advantage lay not in raw power, but in technique and energy control. Chen Du executed his decisive move, a slash of cold, sharp energy that flowed like pure wind. The attack pierced Feng Rui's defenses, striking him directly and causing him to vomit blood. In a crucial moment, Feng Rui tried to flip his weapon to defend or counter, but it was too late. Chen Du's control, speed, and precision completely dominated the fight, confirming that the outcome of the duel was already decided. Feng Rui was utterly defeated by Chen Du's technique and composure. Chen Du continued his attack with swift and precise slashes, pressuring Feng Rui without leaving any openings. The attack knocked Feng Rui to the ground hard, completely losing his balance and ability to fight back. They couldn't believe Chen Du could win so cleanly and quickly. After the duel ended, referee Ling ordered the medical team to examine Feng Rui. Teacher Ling stopped Chen Du for a moment and praised him, and reminded Chen Du to remain vigilant. He chose simulation/virtual combat pod training because he couldn't train with real personnel. In the simulation, Chen Du would fight multiple fighters simultaneously, focusing on movement efficiency, speed, and adaptability to real combat. Chen Du entered the virtual combat pod and prepared for further training. He explained that this combat ranking was a global system that assessed actual martial arts strength. He wasn't yet strong enough to enter the Hongwu class, but he realized the gap was closing. He assessed that his current shortcomings weren't talent or courage, but rather actual combat ability and consistency in real combat. Chen Du entered the virtual combat space for a warm-up match after receiving the virtual combat pod. He appeared relaxed and confident, even wondering where his opponent was. But before he could fully react, his opponent attacked with extreme speed. Chen Du realized one crucial thing: he had reacted too late. This scene confirmed that although Chen Du was constantly improving, his speed and combat instincts still lagged behind those of higher-level fighters, a reminder that virtual combat is not just training, but a truly dangerous arena if caught off guard.